Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Video with TOI Auto. And today we've got Mr. Shashank Srivastava with us. And the discussion today is going to be very interesting. We're going to talk about the MPV segment. And Maruti, as you already know from all of our stories, has a lot of action packed in this space with the upcoming Ertiga and the XL6. So today we'll talk to Mr. Srivastava, ask him more about this segment, more about the two new babies they're going to roll out, and what to expect more from Maruti in the coming times. So thank you for your time, Mr. Srivastava, and thank you for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you, Arpit. And this segment, which we are talking about today, is become extremely important in the entire auto industry for the passenger vehicles. And the reason I say that is that over the last few years, we have seen good growth in the absolute volumes in this segment, as also the share of this segment in the overall industry has also increased. It used to be just about 4-5% 6 years back, now about 8% or so. And of course, Maruti Suzuki, when it first came with the Ertiga, that was in 2012. It was a small segment, and we were just starting. At that time, it was dominated clearly by the Innova, and subsequently, of course, so after we introduced the Ertiga, and over the years, as also we introduced very recently the XL6 in 2019, we have seen that we have got very good traction. And our market share now is almost 65% in this segment. So what I was saying was that this segment was earlier seen as only for those consumers with larger families. And over the period of time, of course, what we have seen is that even consumers, it has become more like a lifestyle vehicle. People of need not have large families for them to consider this vehicle. And it is about getting people together. And our campaign talks about how the campaign theme is bring back together. So that sort of thing is what is there for the new Ertiga, and we hope that the good run that we have seen in the Ertiga will continue in the future as well with this new launch.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, Mr. Srivastava, like you said, together right now with these have a market share of around 85%, you said, right?
65%.
3%. So would
65.
you be able to split that between these two, the Ertiga and XL6? Like how much do individually these vehicles account for?
Yes, so Ertiga sales are roughly 10,000 a month, and for XL6 it's roughly about 3,500. So 13,500 is the sale in an overall market for MPV, which would be roughly about 240,000 or so.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So 240,000 is the annual size of the market.
Yes. 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 So out of which
And
13,500 is Maruti Suzuki. Yeah.
and what has been the more recent performance of the Ertiga and XL6 in the last few months? If we have to look at it right now, how many units are you doing?
Yeah, so we are doing about 10,000 a month for, as I just said. These are fairly recent numbers. Earlier, if you look at Ertiga, our sales used to be about 5,000 Ertigas a month for a very long time. Actually, if you look at the figure from 2013, 14, roughly about 60,000, 14, 15 was 62,000, 15, 16, again 60,000, then 63,000, 65,000 till 2019, and then we
Okay.
added XL6 and the new Ertiga. The new Ertiga, of course, we saw a sudden jump from about 6,000, 5.5, 6,000 a month to almost 9.5, 9,000 a month. And that has been the average for the last 3 years. And in fact, as you know, we are constrained by production here. So that is the capacity of our production, about 10,000 a month for Ertiga. And that is what we are selling at the moment. XL6 added about 3,500 to the overall numbers. XL6, as you know, has always been only petrol vehicle, whereas Ertiga was earlier a diesel and a petrol, and subsequently, once diesel was discontinued, it was also petrol and CNG. So that we have to keep in mind. Ertiga has that option of gasoline and CNG, whereas XL6 only comes with the gasoline option.
Right. And recently, like with the Baleno, you had, of course, brought in some new changes. But what we saw with the Baleno was that you took the car from a certain spectrum within a section, within a segment, towards a far more higher end of it. So with the Ertiga and XL6, can we expect such changes? Would these be just incremental changes, or can we expect a difference in positioning as well? Because with the new Baleno, like your positioning went a little more premium. So herein, does that same approach follow?
Yeah, so in the Baleno, as you know, the earlier tagline was make bolder moves, which was about the bold part of the consumer and the car. And then, as the customer became more aspirational, the Indian consumer wanted more tech features. So here was a car which now comes with a very high tech features, including first of its kind, the HUD, the 360-degree camera, which is not there in any other car in this segment. I'm talking of the premium hatch segment, the Baleno segment. And we therefore introduced that word tech goes bold. So while we retained that boldness element, which went so well with the consumer, especially the urban consumer, we added the tech element. That was the aspirational part of the the new Indian young buyer. And in Ertiga and XL6, it's like sort of similar. We will be adding a host of features in both the Ertiga and the new XL6. And obviously, the positioning will all become a little more premium. The Ertiga, of course, the campaign plays upon. Um, it's not out yet, but I'm just telling you a little bit in advance. It talks about bringing back together. So if you see our last few years, we have seen a sort of a change of our lifestyles because of the COVID issues, and this is something now we are getting out of it, and therefore this is one vehicle which allows you to really enjoy different types of activities that you may want to do with your friends, with your family, etc. So the campaign talks about different situations. You know, the office talks about friends, talks about family, etc. Different occasions when you would be together, and the campaign talks about bringing back togetherness, and and we are also showcasing a lot of new features which we are being introduced in the new Ertiga. We are also introducing, by the way, the six-speed automatic, which everybody was talking about with the paddle shifters. We have the new 1.5K series engine with this smart hybrid technology. We have the connected car technology as well, like the Baleno, was the first car which had the factory built-in Suzuki Connect. The same is carried forward in the XL6 as well as the Ertiga. And of course, we have the 7-inch Smart Play Pro touchscreen infotainment system, which is, of course, now essential, and lots of consumers want that sort of entertainment system. So that is where we are, and Ertiga and XL6 both are going to be positioned in a slightly more premium space, because they are adding all those tech features which are aspirational in nature, and consequently consumers would like to see the vehicles as a premium vehicle, which is what it is.
Right. And with the XL6, can you tell us of any unique segment, first feature, something that is different from the Ertiga that you're introducing with the XL6? Because that is like a more premium, a more plush product.
Mm, mm. Yeah, so yes, so XL6 actually, if you see the design element, it's like a different, it's a more SUV stance, as you know. And XL6, we would like to say that it is actually a different product altogether. Although the underlying platform is the same, but the positioning of XL6 is about comfort, about indulgent comfort. So it is like it's got captain seat, for example. Uh, which is like meant for a very premium sort of experience. So XL6, the design cues, if you see, are more SUV in nature. So it is sort of a mix of MPV and SUV, but it also if you see the design overall is also very premium, and it's more Nexa oriented, what we call the crafted futurism philosophy of design. And that is one of the major things which makes XL6 quite a different product. And you would be surprised that it's not just the price points which are different. For XL6 is much more expensive compared with Ertiga. It is from the Nexa portfolio of vehicles. Therefore, it follows a different brand philosophy. But one thing about XL6 is the consumer themselves are of a category quite different from the Ertiga. So, in that sense, XL6 is a very premium product in the Nexa range. And the profile of the consumers who buy it also shows the same direction.
Okay. And Mr. Srivastava, now, of course, one of the biggest changes is the automatic transmission,
Yeah.
which was awaited for a long time. Now that finally you're getting it with these vehicles, do you expect any kind of a major change in the split? Because till now you did not have like a proper six-speed, a modern automatic torque converter. But now with this gearbox coming in, are you expecting any change in the manual versus the AT split?
Yeah, so interestingly, if you look at Ertiga, the 80 manual split is just 2% and 98% currently. Whereas for XL6, it's almost like 82, 18, that
Okay.
range. Yeah. So clearly, of course, as you see the upper end, as you move towards the upper end of the spectrum in terms of the product portfolio in the industry, you see a larger percentage of people preferring the 80. And with the premiumness coming in now for the Ertiga, extra already there for XL6, with this six-speed 80, we would expect the percentage to go up significantly. And by the way, the percentage of sales of 80 overall in the industry is getting higher over a period of time. And
Right.
I think I would expect this 2% of from the Ertiga to substantially go up. And certainly it could come to very close to 15%, for example, which is already there for the XL6.
Okay. All right. And now, of course, with these vehicles and the new features, I'm sure you would be expecting expansion both in the terms of volumes for these. So, can you tell us,
Yeah, yeah.
and what would be the impact of the ongoing chip shortage on your plans?
Yeah. So interestingly, Arpit, if you see the number of bookings which we have had for Ertiga and XL6, we have always seen a waiting period in the last 3 years. I mean, since 2019, the waiting period still continues, especially if you look at Ertiga CNG with the waiting period of almost 5 to 6 months. And the total bookings which are pending for Ertiga, let me give you the actual numbers here, are also pretty high. I mean, if you look at Ertiga, the total bookings are 102,000 bookings pending. As also, if you look at XL6 with almost almost 7,000, 8,000 bookings which are pending. So that's pretty large. So it's 2 to 4 months waiting, and for CNG in Ertiga, it's even higher. So we have had this supply issue for the last three years, because we are trying to up the production, and we had unfortunately the COVID in between, and we had supply related issues. The point I'm making is, ever since the new Ertiga was launched in 2019, 18 actually, and also XL6 in 2019, we have seen a big jump in the overall volumes. As we mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, from about 6,000, 5,500, 6,000 a month to more than 10,000 currently. So while we have
Right.
increased the production, but it's still not sufficient to keep pace with the demand that we have. And with this, I would expect it to be even better. And therefore, it is the onus is on us to how to maximize our supply situation. Interestingly, the Ertiga bookings which we have received so far, we just opened about a few days back. We are getting bookings of almost 1,200 a day. So we have crossed about 6,000 bookings so far. in which, whereas the earlier rate was about 800 a day. So there is a 50% increase, even though we have not yet introduced the Ertiga officially. We haven't told the new features to the consumers. We haven't announced the new prices. But the fact that you have seen almost a 50% jump in the bookings, from about 800 a day to 1200 a day in the last few days since we announced the booking, indicates the potential in this segment, and also the fact that if the product is right, we can actually go for much larger volumes.
So 6,000 plus bookings you already have for the new
Yes,
Ertiga.
yes, that's right.
And for the XL6, how's the response coming along?
Actually, we announced just yesterday, so I'm actually not having the statistics for the XL6. But normally in a month we do about 3,500. So that's like roughly 100 a day or 100 a day. So yesterday we did receive about 170,000 bookings or so, 170 bookings. But we will have to see, because it was just yesterday that we started. So yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And Mr. Srivastava, by how soon can we see this six-speed automatic being rolled out across the other models?
Yeah, so that is something which obviously I am not able to tell you in advance for our product, the products, because both on the timelines and the specific features, I may not be able to give specific replies. As you know, Arpit, on the product plan, it's a little difficult for me to be extremely specific,
Right.
especially looking going forward. For the forward projections.
Right. But do you see, sir, any a scenario, because now like it's very commonly it's a known fact that of course at some point of time this transmission will be given to other vehicles, and do you see this in a way hurting the present or the ongoing sentiment for the available transmissions? People might think that let's wait, or I might not go for this. Do you see that kind of a
I don't think so, Arpit, because for a simple reason that while there seems to be an increasing acceptance and people are wanting the automatic transmission because of the increased congestion in the
right?
Indian cities, it's so much easier to drive with the automatic transmission. But there is also the element of price sensitivity. So when we introduced the AGS, for example, people said that no, this is not going to work because we people want a 480, 680, whatever. But actually it came at a price point which was much more democratic and much more in the hands of consumers who were taking a particular type of vehicle. So if you look at hatches or the lower priced vehicles, for example, there is always that element that people do want convenience, but obviously they are more sensitive to price. So the 680 obviously is much more expensive, and in certain categories of vehicles, obviously people would prefer this. Where in the higher categories, especially, the price sensitivity is lesser compared to a price sensitivity in the lower segment. And that is the reason why our AGS is extremely successful. And the other reason why our AGS is also successful, and people may not impact so much the introduction of the 6-speed 80, is because the the second generation of AGS which we introduced takes care of some of the feedback which we had received earlier on the first generation AGS. That slight lag in the gear getting engaged. So that sort of thing has been taken. In fact, the new AGS, which we have also introduced, by the way, in the new Baleno, has got fantastic response. People say they cannot make out the difference between that and the CVT or the other forms of automatic transmission, and it comes at a much more attractive price. So I think both technologies are important, and depending on the category of vehicles that they are catering to.
And in some of the career rivals are already offering model lines with multiple transmission options. So wherein you can have one model with either a manual or a CVT or with a DCT. Now that your own transmission lineup is expanding, do you have any plans to offer model lineups with multiple transmission options within the automatic range?
So, as I said, it will be difficult for me to give you a specific answer of the type of options for the future in our product planning. But yes, we do keep track of consumer requirement very closely, as you know. And one of the reasons why Maruti Suzuki has been so successful in the past is because we could identify the basic requirement of the consumer and make our product plan accordingly. So we will, and we are tracking also the requirement of the consumer, and accordingly modify our product offerings.
Great. Thank you so much for answering all the questions that I had for the day, Mr. Srivastava. In case there
Thank
is
you.
something that I missed touching upon and you want to mention about the MPV segment or the two MPVs, please share with us.
Yeah, so I already mentioned the volumes. I think the potential in this segment is great, and this is part of our effort to completely revamp our entire portfolio. We introduced the new Celerio very recently, and then the new Baleno. We had the new Wagonar, the new engine recently, and this is in line. The Ertiga and XL6 is like the fifth quick. Improvement at the in the changes in the product in the last 5 months. So this trend will continue throughout the year. Hopefully, we will see a very refurbished and a new type of portfolio going forward for Maruti Suzuki.
That sounds very interesting, and I'm sure along with us and the entire team, all of the buyers and potential consumers will also look forward to that. So thank you once again for joining us for this conversation, and
Thank you,
look
Arpit.
forward to
Thank you, Arpit. Always a pleasure talking to you.